Hello, it's Melinda from Alexis Melinda's Art Space. Another art journal page today. Still working through my collection of Art Journaling Habit 2018. Yes, I know we're now in February 2019. Taking time to get these videos edited. I thoroughly enjoyed the 13-ish pages I did in November. Basically, November Journaling Habit is supposed to be a habit of journaling every day in November. I'm going to see if I can succeed in 2019. Maybe I just don't do anything else but art journal for the month of November. Sounds good. So starting off here, I stamped a little elephant. The prompt was elephant. I haven't started yet. The prompt is elephant. So I stamped a little elephant I had in my elephant stamps, but it was too small. So I decided to draw it on my double page. So this is about a double, two A4 pages, sort of side by side, or 8.5 by 11 inches. Two of those next to each other, so it's quite a big page. So obviously that little stamp, which was about 5 centimeters, was not going to cut it. So I'm quite good at drawing when I have something to copy, drawing from my imagination, not so much like realistic stuff, sort of, unless I've drawn it many times before. So I've sketched it out and made a few boo-boos. So at this stage I was going to paint it, so I'm fixing up my drawing lines with some gesso, and I started the page with gesso as well, using some of the gesso I picked up at Aldi this year. These tubs were like $3, and it's quite a good product. So I'll definitely, if they have it next year, I will probably buy a year's worth if I don't have any left at the moment, because I don't like to spend a lot of expensive stuff on products if I can get a similar product more affordable. So I'm working in my altered book. So I gessoed the page first, and then I put some pencil drawings on it, and then I was just fixing up my pencil drawing with gesso. The ones that the lines I didn't want there anymore, because I had intentions of painting it, but then I decided I might take a leaf out of one of the people I watch quite constantly, called Shel C, and I'll link her channel below. She does a lot of jelly printed paper painting, she calls it, and this is her method of doing a paper painting. She traces out the image. So I grabbed some greaseproof paper from Woolworths. It comes on a roll. It's like a couple of bucks for quite a few, 50 meters or some silly amount. And it's like tracing paper. It has a dull side and a shiny side, so I always work on the dull side. So just sketching, or not sketching, tracing my elephant, because then I decided I was going to paper pierce it instead of painting it. So just cutting out the pieces that I want to do in different papers. So the head I'm going to do in one paper, the ear I'm going to do in another paper, and then I'm going to do the body in something else, and the legs. So there's my head. So this is an easy way if you've drawn an image or got a magazine image or something and you want to make papers exactly the same size. You just trace over the top of them, and what I do is glue this paper down to the back of the paper, and then it sort of acts as a template. I don't have to draw it out again. And because the deli paper is almost like tissue paper, you're not adding a lot of bulk. So this is where I stuff up several times. Well, not with this particular piece, but his body. You'd think I'd learn if I did it wrong the first time. Okay, so when you're doing this, you have to stick the front side of your traced piece of paper to the back side or the reverse side of the paper you want to use. So when you turn it around, your elephant is facing the right direction. Now apparently my brain could not compute that, and I stuck the body, you'll see it in a minute, stuck the body on twice the wrong way around. Okay, any normal person would do it wrong once, but as you know, any long time subby knows, well, stuff happens on this channel, and I'm not normal. I do things, especially striped paper. If you give me striped paper and tell me to cut a certain way for a project, you better give me 5 sheets, because I'm going to stuff up the first 4, even though I think about it quite hard, and think about it, and then I'll cut it and it'll be wrong. It's one of my struggling art issues. Let me know if you have issues with striped paper, cutting it the correct way when you want the stripes to go a certain way. So there, I'm just working on the legs at the moment, doing them in some pattern paper. All the paper for this I'm just pulling from my scrap box, and you'll see that in a minute come onto screen when I'm searching for another piece of paper. Oh, there it is. So just going through and looking for fairly large pieces for the body. I'm had the idea to make like an Indian elephant, so I wanted him to be nice and decorative and colourful, so I think I have achieved that. So just pulling out some of the papers I want to use, some of them I don't end up using. So there's my elephant body. So just working out which piece of paper I can use, and I settled on this green one, which I thought would go nice. Didn't end up using it because I stuck my piece of paper on backwards. So here you can see that I've got the elephant the right side up, and I should have flipped it around so the right side stuck to the wrong side of the pattern paper. Clear as mud? Yep, that's what I thought. So I did it wrong twice. I don't know. Some days I wonder about myself and my arting, whether I actually should put this on YouTube and let you see how silly I am. So welcome to our new subbies. We've had quite a few come on in the last few weeks, which is fantastic. We're inching ever towards that closer 1,000 subbies, and when we do hit 1,000, hopefully in a couple of months. Oh, sorry. So there's not a video with me without yawning. So as I was saying, when we hit 1,000 subbies, hopefully by, let's say the middle of this year, so June, July, we'll do a fantastic celebration and fantastic stuff. So stay around for that. And if you're not a subby, hit that subscribe button below and give us some love by leaving a comment or liking the video. I don't say a lot of that in my videos because I don't like to push it a lot. Like if I like a channel, I'm not going to subscribe or like the video if someone just tells me to do it. I'm working out I did it backwards. So here's the realization, oops, I did it wrong. So I decided to cut it out to stick it on another piece of paper. What I did with this one is I stuck it on the wrong side of the piece of paper and the wrong way around. Okay, so here I'm going to stick it on the correct side of the paper, but it's still going to be backwards. So now I'm just checking all my other pieces, checking the head and checking the ear. And here I go and stick it on the right side of the paper, so my pattern paper will be showing, but unfortunately I stick it again backwards. I'm not having a very good day obviously when I was doing this. I can't even have an excuse like November was a very hot month, or I was having a busy month, or anything. I don't know what my excuse was. Sticking it down the wrong way twice. So then I decided to cut out the ear, and there's the head, and cut out the legs while I am just annoyed at myself for doing it the wrong way twice, seriously. And I was going to cut out the second time I put it on wrong out of the video and just not allowed you to see my silliness, but I decided to put it in. You can see how silly I am. Let me know what your silliest mistake in art journaling is. Mine's obviously ruining 2 lots of paper and doing things the wrong way around. So now I'm trying to find a piece of paper, and I look at it and look at it and decide that it is the correct way that I need to do it. And I decide I don't need the legs, so I can use a smaller piece of paper. So this poor elephant's body is like the thin tracing paper and 3 pieces of pattern paper. So when I said in the start that sticking the tracing paper on doesn't bulk up your book, it doesn't if you use 1 layer of paper. Apparently when I use 3 it does add a little bit of bulk, but that's okay. He's nice and sort of bulky. You run your hand over the page and you can feel his depth. Maybe I was going for that effect deep down in my subconscious. Some days I wonder if I should be let alone on the art table. So just tracing around, I realised I only did 2 legs before, and apparently elephants have 4. So I had to do the other 2 legs in blue. And I quite like the colours I used. So this one I am tracing around the legs. So you can do that. You can use your pattern to trace around, but I find it easier just to stick it on the paper. Just make sure it's around the right way. Otherwise, if I'd done all the pieces backwards, it wouldn't have mattered because my elephant would have face the other direction. At the moment he's facing to the right. He would have faced to the left. But half the pieces were left and half the pieces were right. Maybe I'll do one like that and he's just a mucked up elephant and doesn't know which direction he's going. That's me some days. Seriously. So just finishing off his legs, I did start by using matte Mod Podge to stick the pieces down, and then I just reverted to just a glue stick, a boohoo, a whatever glue stick, a blue, not a boohoo, yoo-hoo. No, it's not yoo-hoo, it's not yellow. Just like a normal kid's glue stick. I often just buy the cheap ones from Reject Shop, or I've got some cheap ones from Aldi, and they seem to be working really well. So just sort of putting my elephant together. I think he looks beautiful. Seriously, it's not an art journal video or a voiced over video without Melinda yawning. So his head kept coming off because his ear and his head were quite sort of cut from each other, so I didn't have much of paper to overlap, but I managed to stick him on. His head does look, I gave him a bit longer neck, so he does look a bit funny, but I'm happy with him. I probably should have put his neck back a bit. Okay, so now I decided, well, what am I going to do for the background? So I grabbed out some clouds and I grabbed out this green, so I'm just sort of measuring and eyeballing and trying to stretch this paper to cover it in the background. Obviously I don't need to specifically cover where he's covering, so I can be a bit stingy with my green and clouds. I'm not sure where the green or clouds paper come from. I believe the heart one that's on his head is Kaiser Craft. The clouds may be a Becky Higgins, really old one I picked up from Spotlight. And I don't know, the grey could have, the green one could be Basic Grey. That's really, really old. I don't know. Using a lot of old stuff up lately. This year in 2019, just gluing those background pieces down. Wanting to use up a lot of old stuff I've got and use up more than I buy. I'm not going to put myself on a spending freeze because, well, hey, I know that's not going to happen. But my idea was that if I use more than I buy, then I can sort of justify it. Because I know if I say I'm not going to buy anything, well, it's not going to work. And these clouds matched up perfectly too, and you almost can't see where they've been joined. If you get your nose quite close to the page, you probably see, but from a distance, you can't. And I do apologise about my light being in the top of the screen. I did not realise that while I was filming. I film on a video camera. I have this really old video camera. It's probably 10 years old, but it works. You have to plug it into the power consistently because the batteries are shot, but it still works. And it's got a really small viewfinder on it, so it's hard for me to see what's in the screen when I'm sitting on my desk. So just gluing my elephant down, wanting to make him stick down really well, so adding lots of the glue. And I do go over it. I grab the matte Mod Podge in a minute, so I just wanted to seal it down because it had multiple layers. I just wanted to seal it down really well. The matte Mod Podge is probably not my favourite product to seal it down with because it turns out to be a bit glossy, even though it's supposed to be matte. Here I go with the matte Mod Podge. Seriously, should not be doing voiceovers when my brain does not want to function, and it's only like 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, so it's not that late. Usually I do my voiceovers in the wee hours of the morning, so just sealing it down with matte Mod Podge. I usually like Liquitex matte medium, but this was on special and it's a bit cheaper, so if I can't get my favourite product, I will go with this one. I tend to buy them in bulk and when Lincraft or Spotlight have 40% off. Last time I was in Spotlight, they didn't actually have any, so I don't know whether they're restocking or not. Hopefully they still do it because it's good to pick it up when it's 40% off, better than paying full price. I do not like to pay full price for things. I'm a bit scungy that way. If I can get it cheaper, I will, and I'll usually buy like 3 or 4 bottles or whatever they have on the shelf and use them over the next few months. Plus my daughter uses this a lot, so we do go through a fair whack of it. So just covering the entire page, what I wanted to do was do some doodling and drawing on top of it, so I did want a consistent surface to work on as well. That's why I coated it with the Mod Podge. So the pen and the textures I'm going to use in a few minutes will react react the same and over all the papers, if that makes sense. And obviously, apparently the clouds didn't want to stick down. Get a sneak peek of my other pages in my journal. I've nearly finished these wine books. It did, my altered book did split into two because I burst the spine, but I am hopefully going to put one back in the cover and maybe make a new cover for the other one. I may make videos for those. So I grabbed my algae, oh my god, seriously, I should not be doing voiceovers, I can't talk. Algae alcohol markers. I was going to call them alcoholic and they're not alcoholic. Seriously, if you're still with me, I do apologise. I will get a little bit more professional as this video goes on. So grab my Audi alcohol markers and they go really nicely over the matte gel medium, and just wanting to define the elephant and make him pop out from the page. Could also do this with a like a permanent texture, or you could even do it with like the Stabilo All. I'm still wanting to get my fingers on one of those pencils one day. So just drying off that, and I grabbed these. These were sitting in my scrap paper box. They were from a kit, and I didn't end up using them in the kit from quite a few years ago. So they were they were called Mr. Bulls. I'm not sure what brand they were, but obviously not available anymore because I've had them for like 5 years. So I didn't have any mist, so I decided to wet my watercolors. They were like a paper. They've got a bit of texture to them, so they're like a very absorbent paper. So I thought misting them, I would get mist everywhere, so I decided to colour them up with my watercolours. So these are, what watercolours are these? Can't think off the top of my head. Montmartre? No, they're not Montmartre. They're Micador, that I got fairly cheaply for like $3.50 at Spotlight. They're usually like $16. They're a bit chalky. So they're sort of great for art journaling and a great entry level, even for $16 a set, or if you can get them cheaper, grab them cheaper. They're a bit chalky when you finish with them, but they took really well to this surface, which was really good. But I do find just on normal paper they are a bit chalky, but they are a nice bright colours, so you sort of have to take the good with the bad. So I definitely wanted to use one of the birds. I decided to only colour a few, but then I thought, well, while I've got the paints out, I may as well colour the lot and use what I like, and then I've got the rest coloured for another project. So I do give them a bit of a squirt of water. I was trying to get a bit of sort of toning and shading happening on the flowers and the birds. Yeah, sort of got that effect. Might be able to see it in the close-up pictures. I do love that spray. I do end up using that and a bird and a bunch of the little flowers. So just using a water brush, I do like to spray my watercolours first, so I don't have to dip my brush so often. So I spray into the little wells of paint and it sort of activates them, which makes them a lot easier and a lot quicker to use, as opposed to me dipping my brush in and swirling it round and sort of digging up the watercolours. So that's a tip I learned off a few YouTubers I watched. They just spritz their whole palette, and just off screen I've got a jar of water that I'm just washing between colours. So sort of trying to get a bit of tonal, a bit of two tones on each of the flowers, just to make them a bit more interesting than having them flat. So I had fun doing this. It was nice to just sit there and throw colour at things. Not sure whether I can find a similar product like this, but it would be fun to have some more shapes. I suppose I could die cut my own in like a thin watercolour paper, and then I'll be able to use them. But it's always fun when they're stickers. So nearly finished colouring up the pages. The watercolours did react differently to this paper. It went a bit more dull than it usually does. You have to excuse the birds if you can hear the birds. It's been quite warm here today, so I'm sitting here with the door half open and trying to get my voiceover done. So just giving them a good dry before I go and peel them off and stick them down. So I was sort of deciding what other colours I wanted to add. I grabbed my other palette. That's a Semco palette from Spotlight. Again, that wasn't very cheap. Great bright colours, so a good sort of introductory palette. Decided I want to do a bit more doodling before I threw on my stickers. So here I grabbed my image of my elephant back and sort of getting inspiration but not directly copying the stamp. I possibly could have taken the stamp to my computer and enlarged it and used it that way, but I thought I'd have a draw today. I go through phases where I don't like to draw at all, and then I do like to do lots of drawing. It just depends. Drawing and doodling like this really relaxes me. I'm not a colouring in person, so, and obviously my hand going around did not know what I was going to do next. Weird. So when this colour therapy come in, I don't like colouring in, and I never did as a child. I would prefer, if I did get a colouring in book, I would also get a blank piece of paper and basically redraw the colouring in pages, which fascinated my family because they go, why don't you colour them in? I said, how boring. So I would redraw a lot of the cartoons and things, and I still love doing that today. I love getting pictures and cartoons and redrawing them. That's what makes me relax more than colouring in. I told you I'm weird. I have a weird brain. I have a weird way of doing art, but that's me. So just wanted to define the hearts a bit. They were sort of getting a bit lost when I had a lot of colour on the rest of the body. I found that the hearts just needed to be popped a bit more, so I just go around them with the black marker. So just trying to decide, then I decided he needs some scallops on his belly, so trying to fill it in without making it over the top. So I'm just using a black permanent marker. And he needs a bit of grass to stand on because my elephant can't be flying around in the air. That's another thing, I like all my things to be grounded and up the right way. I'm weird and wonderful like that. I don't know. So what do we do to the elephant next? Next we decide to, I'm going to trim off the top of the papers. And we bring the stickers in, and I decide that I just need to dry them a little bit more. And this was done in November, so it wasn't as hot. If it was done nowadays, it is stinking hot, so I wouldn't have had to keep drying them. And I should have cut this drying out, I do apologise. So now I decided to stick the stickers on, but because I'm sticking the stickers onto the top of matte Mod Podge, I do need to add a bit more glue. So I grabbed my super glue from the reject shop. It's got the Craft Spot brand on it. I believe it's like $6 for the bottle, and it's more of a clear gel than a gushy glue. It's not like a PVA that gushes out, it's more like a gel. So you put a little pinprick in the top of the white nozzle, and the only disadvantage I don't like about it is when you get down to about a third, you can sit there for about a minute with it upside down, waiting for the glue to go plonk down the bottom so you can use it. Apart from that, it's really good. But for $6, if I use 2/3 of it, I'm way better than buying a more expensive glue. And I use this glue for everything. I use it for paper, for chipboard, for metal buttons, for a lot of, sorry, I just had an ad pop up I have to get rid of. A lot of things that aren't paper, and it's good for paper as well. The stickers possibly would have stuck quite well, but because there's no plastic or anything on top of my art journal pages, and I do flick through them quite often, I did want that extra glue just to stick down. I decided you needed half a flower in his head, so I cut one of the flowers in half. And I'm putting my finger there going, yeah, it sort of needs something, so I decided to grab another sticker, and this one was being particularly stubborn. I tore off the backing paper, or some of the backing paper as well. Obviously that one got a bit wet, so just grab my craft knife to try to separate the layers. And add a bit more glue and whack it down. So once I've got the flowers down, I do need to add a bit of outlining to them just to make them sort of coherent with the layout. At the moment the flowers look a little lost because they obviously don't have the dark black bold lines around them. I do like the graphic look of dark bold black lines around my shapes. I don't know, that's just another thing I like. I told you I'm weird. Just about finished. I believe that's the last bit of the finishing off of the pages that I do of the page, the elephant. So I thoroughly enjoyed doing the November prompts for the pages I got done. It's just my art journal pages tend to take a lot longer than other people. I watch some of these YouTubers and they do an art journal page in 10 or 15 minutes, and do the video, and it goes up for about 5 minutes once they've sped up 3 times. Now this is sped up 3 times, and this is over 25 minutes long, so it took me over an hour and probably an hour and 20 minutes to actually do this art journal page. So that's sort of a long time to spend. I find a lot of my art journal pages are more intricate and involved and take a lot longer than some people just slap paint, stencil, stamp, focal image and they're done. I don't know, it's just the way I do it. So a few still photos at the end, and then I will leave you. Thank you for staying to the end if you're still here, listening to me waffle about my weirdness in my art journal pages. I do appreciate it. And thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye for now.